Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. Tristan here, along with Jacob. And Jacob, you want to tell them what we're going to get into?
Yeah, so in the NFL, we're going to be talking about the second week of preseason and maybe doing a little preview as to what we think we're going to see from our respective teams in the third week, as well as we're continuing our little series. We're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Going into hockey, there's not much, but we're going to talk a little bit about the preseason and when that starts, and then going into the MLB. Bryce Harper is back today, as well as a Nationals first-round pick from a few years ago is making his debut tonight. So let's get right into it.
Yes. So to start out, I'll let you. Did the Commanders play their starters? Because
Yeah, we played him for the first half.
I'll let you talk about that game because the Eagles and the Browns, they both agreed not to play their starters. So there wasn't really much from the game in that facet. Obviously, you're not going to see much from Jalen Hurts or them at all. And I also heard that there's some talk that they might not even play their starters in the third game because they're doing the joint practices with the Browns and the Dolphins. So that's where they're really getting their starters and where they're really starting to play. And that's really the only thing that that's the more that they're worried about as opposed to playing in the preseason game.
Yeah, so we played the Chiefs, and there's a few takeaways from the game. The main one being that Brian Robinson, I think, is going to undoubtedly be the starter for Week 1. In terms of running, he just looks so much better than Antonio Gibson. He's a lot more powerful. He's more explosive. He holds the ball well. So Antonio Gibson is going to have a significant decline in his number of carries. Our offense didn't do all that great, but it didn't do terrible. Carson Wentz was 6 for 9 for 64 yards. And the 3 passes that he missed, it did hit the receiver's hands. They were tough throws, but they did hit all of our targets in the hands. So I think he played pretty good. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm worried about our defense though, because Patrick Mahomes looked amazing against us. Our secondary stinks. It's very bad. And it seems like we have the same problems from last year, being that our third down defense stinks. Our linebackers aren't that great. And our secondary is pretty bad. So it seems like it's the same exact year and we have the same exact problems. And it's really worrying because Jack Del Rio, and it seems like not a lot is being done with that defense for what we have on the defensive line. They're not doing as good as they probably need to. So it's a little worrying. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not.
First off, did you see Chase Young has also been put on the PUP list, which means he's out for the first 4 weeks at least of the season.
Which I'm okay with that. I'm glad they're not rushing him back because that's very dangerous as we have figured that out in the past.
And then also, do you see anything from Colin Cowherd around?
Sometimes.
I saw a clip this morning and he had his NFC rankings out, and originally he had the Eagles, the Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. He's now changed his idea, and it's now Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. And his reasoning being that Carson Wentz he's heard nothing but negative things about Carson Wentz, and that he hasn't really been having a good camp, and that with Chase Young out, the Commanders are now missing a significant weapon on their defensive line, especially since he hasn't had a full season since. Did he play a full season in his rookie season? He did, right? Because he won Defensive Player of the Year. But since then, he hasn't had a full season. And so
I understand where Colin Cowherd's coming from, but I do not agree with that at all. I think the Giants are significantly worse even with our so-called problems. And I think with the Wentz thing, ever since he got here, our media has done nothing but criticize him endlessly. And I think that's part of it. And that this narrative is, oh, he's doing horrible and yada, yada, yada. He's going to be pulled. I think Carson Wentz has actually handled himself pretty well, considering I think a lot of our media has been set against him from the start. I can't understand how you look at our roster and the Giants roster, even with our problems, Like something significant and drastic would have to happen for both teams in order for the Giants to surpass Washington. So I disagree with what Colin's saying, even though I think we have the possibility of being like a 7-win team, but yeah,
Hold on, hold on.
I
How
can't.
can you say you disagree with him and then say you still have the possibility of being a 7-win team? Because if the Giants, I
The
don't think
Giants aren't going to be a 6-win team, though, Tristan.
I see. I think you're wrong there. I
They're
think
not.
that
They're not a good team,
the
Tristan.
the only the only thing, okay, you're a Washington fan and you are still saying how bad your defense is constantly. And
Yes, but
you
it's
know the
going to
saying,
be
you know the
good.
saying,
But Tristan,
defense wins championships,
yeah,
which I'm not saying that you're even
it's
coming close to a Super
yeah,
Bowl.
it's
But
against
what I'm
Patrick
saying,
Mahomes, but we have one of the easiest schedules in the league. We
so
faced
do
a
the
lot of
Giants.
yeah, so do the Giants,
The
but
Giants have
they
an
are a
easier
worse
schedule than you
team.
do.
Yeah, but they are a worse team, Tristan.
My point being that first off, the Giants and the Commanders in their 22, like their starting 22 players, I think have a very say both of your teams were to stay healthy the entire season, which obviously isn't going to happen already, being that Chase Young's put on the pup list. And we all know Carson Wentz's injury history. So
Same with Saquon Barkley, though.
right there, yes, I will accept that. But the same thing, I would say their starting 22 looks pretty even. Like you both have deficiencies in certain places, but make up for it with other spots. So like basically just for an example, say like they have weaker corners, but you have weaker safeties. That's just an example. That's just going off
I
the top
think
of my head.
our secondary,
But that's
I think it's the wrong
I'm not
it's
saying
the
your
wrong
secondary is
system.
bad. I'm just saying as an example, their corners might be bad, but then your safeties are bad. So then it evens out. That's the example I'm trying to make there. So I think your 22 is about even, and there has been sayings that Daniel Jones, he might not be, I'm not saying he's going to be the next best quarterback, but Josh Allen didn't have a great rookie season, and Brian Dable helped turn him around, and Josh Allen is now a perennial MVP candidate. Again, not saying Daniel Jones is going to be an MVP candidate, but I think that I think you're going too much off of last season, which I don't blame you because that's how everyone gauges how someone's going to do next season. But at the same time, every team in the NFC East got better. Like the only team that I would say quote unquote got worse was the Cowboys. And I still don't think that they are a terrible team. So yes, you have to base what you think they're going to do off of last season. But I mean, they still added pieces that I think they're going to win more than 5 games this season. I think they can definitely win 7, probably not 8. Once you start getting up towards a winning record, that's when I start to back off a little bit. But I think they have potential to win 6, maybe 7 games. And I want to say they won 4 last season. I'll double check.
I understand that, but with Daniel Jones, we keep I heard something similar to this last season that they're kind of a dark horse team and that they could surprise a lot of teams, and they don't, because with their offense, it comes down to the fact that even though they did improve their offensive line this year, it's nowhere near good. You can't really say that it's decent. Saquon Barkley, he always gets injured, and it's due to the fact that he's running for his life most of the time, and like the defenders get to him in the backfield quite often. And with the receivers, whether it's Kenny Galladay, we keep thinking, okay, this guy, I think he could be better than he actually is performing. And I just think that's what it comes down to with the Giants. And if we put up both of our teams, I think Washington's going to have a better team, because what our offense is going to be able to do that I don't think the Giants will do is have those really long drives. And I think that's going to be one of the keys to helping our defense, is having those really long drives that stretch out the clock. And that's our offense essentially. And now that we have a pretty good running back room, and our offensive line is actually performing pretty good, even though we have deficiencies on defense that I think really need to be addressed. I think it's going to be good enough to beat some not like the top teams, but I think it's going to be good enough to beat an okay amount.
Now,
I think we can sit just above 500. I think that's a realistic goal for us.
real quick, the Giants have 2 very high first-round picks as their tackles now. Not saying that's going to transform their offensive line because obviously the interior is still very malleable.
It's bad.
And Saquon Barkley played, I believe, 4 snaps last season before he was injured for the rest of the season. So you can't even base what's going to go on this season from last season. You can't base that. If you look
at his history,
if you look at, you want to look at his history. Yes, he didn't play last season, and the season before that, I want to say he got injured twice, and he did.
In 2020, he played 2 games. Last season, he played 13, but only had 162 carries.
He didn't play last season.
In 2021, it shows he played 13 games.
What?
2022, he played 2 games.
Oh, okay. So they're counting last season as 2022. Okay, then the year prior, 13. And his rookie year, he also did get injured. But again, Cowboys O-line has been terrible. Or not Cowboys, Giants O-line.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep on looking at the history, in college, again, college is a different animal from the NFL. But he didn't have injury problems like this in college. Now, I can attest to that because I was watching him in college and all that. He didn't have injury problems like that in college. So I don't know if he all of a sudden became, fragile since he signed, multi-million-dollar deal, or if it's just the product of being behind a terrible offensive line. Now, I would lean more towards the latter there because that's the one that makes sense, but who knows? So I'm gonna say, there's pieces that you can, but I would say that's the same for Carson Wentz. I don't know how many injuries he suffered in college. I can't attest to that. But again, he was having an all-star season, MVP season up until he got injured in 2017. And then since then it has been going downhill. So, I mean, I think if you're trying to compare and trying to say oh, well, Washington has this much better of an opportunity because of this, that, and the other thing. I mean, you can really counteract it with the same thing going back towards Washington. I think either way, in preseason, you can't really tell either because you can say, yeah, Washington's offensive line looks amazing right now, but they're playing 3rd string D linemen. So yeah, you can say that.
We were actually playing the starters for the Chiefs, and before that, the starters for the Panthers.
But you weren't doing that in the entire game.
No, we weren't doing that in the entire game.
I'm sure your offensive line got taken out partway through too.
It got taken out the same time as our main starters got taken out. We just did it as a whole unit versus certain players.
Either way, it is preseason. You're gonna have to wait to see.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really there's questions that need to be answered, and you can't really find out until the season starts. I mean, that's how the NFL works. It's the beauty of it. But
I think what our secondary comes down to is with our cornerbacks. Kendall Fuller is a really good zone cornerback, but Juice and William Jackson are man-to-man cornerbacks. So I think that's one of the issues, and our linebackers are an issue as well. Jamin Davis is actually good at covering, but other than that, not much else. Our safeties leave a lot to be desired. I just think we need to change the system. I think we're running the same system as last year and getting the same outcome. I just think we need to change a few things out, whether that's putting in a few more blitzes here and there, or just changing to man, or changing to a different style of zone. I think it's a solvable problem, but if we don't try and do anything about it, then it's going to cause a lot of issues because we play some good quarterbacks this year, but yeah, I'm obviously going to be worried because as a Washington fan, I have not been given a reason not to be worried. I mean, this happens a lot during the season. So, I mean, we'll obviously have to see, but I think I'm actually not really that worried about the offense because they're doing pretty much as they're being asked. Carson Wentz is actually making some pretty smart throws, so I'm not too worried about that. And with Brian Robinson looking very good and his limited amount of carries, I'll admit, but he's going to get the starting role, and I think I'm excited for the offensive side of the ball.
The only thing I have really from the Eagles is I don't know if you saw this because I don't think it went like viral as like NFL wide viral, but it was definitely an Eagles, like a Philadelphia thing that I was seeing all over Instagram and stuff. Did you see Tyreek Hill when he beat Darius Slay on that route?
I did not.
Tyreek Hill and Darius Slay were going at each other on a go route to Tyreek Hill. And first off, Tyreek Hill was underthrown, like we have been saying since he got traded. But he was underthrown, but everyone was saying, oh, like Darius Slay is trash because Darius Slay tripped and Tyreek Hill was then left wide open. And everyone was like, oh, Darius Slay was tripped. The thing that made it better was AJ Brown tweeted back at that video and he goes, yo, where are the videos of the Eagles receivers cooking the Miami corners? And I don't know who posted it, but I just saw it was a compilation of just AJ Brown and Devontae Smith just toasting the corners of Miami. But I mean, other than that, it's like I said with the same thing with Washington and the Giants, it's preseason, and obviously they're not starting their starters a ton in the preseason. So I'm really just waiting for the actual season to wait to see what happens. Because I think first off, the only thing that I really have to say is I think Jalen Hurts is taking too much hate as a second-year starter. Everyone wants to hop on the whole, he's terrible bandwagon, but I really don't think he's going to be that bad. He has been working. Now, again, I'm listening to different podcasts and hearing different sources of news come in and say like he's working on a ton of things and he looks good. But again, that's in practices and preseasons. But everything that he was struggling with, fleeing the pocket too early or seeing routes downfield, he was working on and he looks like he's getting better at. So that's I think him getting hated on is too much. I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. I think not comparing them, but I mean, I guess I am because really they're both kind of the same quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is a little bit more pass happy than Lamar is, which you obviously want as a quarterback. But
I think that's down to more personnel because I don't think the Ravens have the wide receiver core that
they definitely do not. But still, like Lamar Jackson in his rookie season was having issues throwing the ball and getting the ball downfield. And then he worked in the offseason, strengthened himself up, and he could throw a ball way further. Like, it's the same things. Like, as an NFL quarterback, you need to realize your weaknesses and then adjust them and work on that over the offseason and get ready for the next season. So I think people are just taking too much off of what they saw last season, which, again, I still don't think he played terribly last season.
He, kind of like with what Carson Wentz did, those quarterbacks, they didn't play bad by any means. It's just that I think people have like lofty expectations. And I think that the reason Jalen Hurts has as much pressure on him as he does this season is because how good on paper the Eagles offense is. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league still. It turned each one of your running backs. They looked pretty good. They didn't get the highest numbers, but they looked really good. And you finally have a decent wide receiver core now with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So
decent. I'd venture to say it's the best in the NFC East.
I
mean,
I'd say it's between us because I think we have better depth than you.
I still don't even think that because they're
well, who do you have at your depth? Because you just got rid of Arcega-Whiteside and you got rid of some.
He wasn't even listed as a wide receiver anymore. No. So you can't even say he was.
Who's your depth though?
So you got AJ Brown 1, Devontae Smith 2, Quez Watkins is like a vertical slot for 3, which again, Quez Watkins takes so much hate, but I think he actually will be a pretty good uh slot receiver. And Nick Sirianni thinks that Quez Watkins has potential to be the best number 2 receiver he's ever worked with, which makes no sense being that they traded for AJ Brown, then moving Devontae Smith down to number 2, but that's neither here nor there. But getting high praise from Nick Sirianni in that's what we're really looking at there. Then at 4, they have Zach Pascal, who's played for the Colts and he was with the Titans for a little bit before that. Now, Zach Pascal isn't exactly the, best sounding of names, but they brought him in to do one job and he knows his job, which is to be a third down receiver, possession receiver who can just get beyond the sticks and catch the ball right beyond the first down. So he knows his role. And then their 5th receiver looks like it's going to end up being Jalen Reagor unless they trade him because he's not going to be cut, which Jalen Reagor still has yet to find gold and, actually find his way in the NFL. But still, I think having a first round pick as your 5th receiver shows you have pretty good depth, whether he's performing or not.
That remains to be seen. But
Either
for Washington, we have McLaurin, Doxson, Samuel, and our 2 main backups are Cam Sims and De'Ami Brown. And with Antonio Gibson getting I think we're gonna try and move. I was
gonna say if he's getting booted from running back, he might be because he played slot in college.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be more like a gadget guy. I think he's gonna
a Dexter McCluster.
He's gonna play more of that role. So if we look at both of our wide receiver cores, I think both of them. I think they're the 2 best because the Cowboys, I think, fell off because they got rid of Amari Cooper. And I think that's going to hurt them significantly. I like both of our wide receiver cores over them. Whose will be better? I think that's down to the play of the quarterback and how each one executes. But I'm more of a homer, but I still lean towards more of ours. But if your wide receiver core did better, I really wouldn't be that surprised.
I think the only thing, again, like you said, I mean, it comes down to, us being fans of the other teams. I think I feel like the Eagles receiver just has a little bit more experience in the NFL, and that's why I think they're a little bit better. I mean, AJ Brown is on his 2nd contract at this point. Devontae Smith almost broke 1,000 yards as a rookie last season. Probably could have if he had a different quarterback, but that's what you get when you're a rookie. You don't really get to choose. And then Zach Pascal, who I think this is his 2nd or 3rd contract in the NFL. So I think there's just a little bit more experience under the Eagles belt, but I mean, we'll see during the season. And like you said, I think it'll come down to the quarterback play. But leaning from your comment on the Cowboys receivers, let's talk about the Cowboys here and see where we think they're going to fall. Starting on offense, obviously Dak Prescott has potential, as much as it hurts me to say this, has potential to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, depending on his receivers. Now, I have never been a believer in Dak Prescott personally.
You're never big on him.
Because I think this is the first year that he's actually going to get tested as an NFL quarterback. Every other season, he has had insane weapons around him. He's had Amari Cooper since he came into the league. Ezekiel Elliott was the leading rusher in the NFL as a rookie, I believe. And then he had the best offensive line, essentially had the Great Wall of China, I always compared him to, in front of him. So when you have 10 seconds in the pocket and you, as a corner, you can't cover for that for more than 3 seconds, 4 seconds. So if you can sit in the pocket for 5 seconds and open yourself up a wide receiver, then you're obviously going to look great. So personally, I've never been a huge believer in Dak Prescott. And I think this year will be the first year that he actually gets tested. And the reason why, one, Ezekiel Elliott is nowhere near the same player that he used to be.
No.
He is falling apart. Tony Pollard.
People are talking about giving Pollard the majority of carries because he looks more explosive. He holds onto the ball better and just
another Memphis boy.
Yeah, Ezekiel, he just does not look near the same player as he used to be.
Yeah, so obviously Ezekiel Elliott's falling apart, but if I'm being completely honest, I feel like as Dak Prescott, you'd rather want Tony Pollard than Ezekiel Elliott because
I would too.
Tony Pollard is more of a dual threat running back. Like he's got power to get in between the tackles and still get upfield. He has the speed to get around the tackles if he needs to, and he's got good hands because Memphis coaching would preach working on the hands during practice as a running back. So I would say that I'd almost rather Tony Pollard if I was Dak Prescott, but I'm not. So we'll see how the running back situation plays out. But then the wide receivers, again, they don't have a number one wide receiver. Amari Cooper got traded to the Browns.
They have CeeDee Lamb, but he's
not
never...
a one. He's not a one.
No.
Like a one, as a one, I think of obviously AJ Brown. Think of Julio Jones in his heyday. Deebo Samuel could be a one. I'm thinking of the players who, like are a little bit more physical, and when they get the ball, they can still get yards after the catch. Like they are a full-on, like all put together receiver in my mind personally. So obviously you have AJ Brown, who's more of a built guy and will catch a short pass but still get a 10-yard gain. I don't think of any of their receivers as that type of person. CeeDee Lamb is mostly a slot receiver with good,
I'd say so.
Yeah, with good short area quickness and a good route runner. And then Michael Gallup, he's an outside receiver, but again, not a one. He doesn't really possess the I can't think of the word, but he doesn't possess the same traits that a number one receiver does. And then right now it has Jalen Tolbert listed as their third wide receiver. I've never heard of him. They have James Washington, who got drafted the Steelers, who hasn't really shown anything great when he was in the NFL, and Noah Brown, who's played here and there, but hasn't really showed anything. Jalen Tolbert's a rookie, so he was a third-round pick out of South Alabama. So again, not a guy that screams number one receiver to me. So this is really the first year Dak Prescott's going to have to battle for yards in a passing play, being that he doesn't have a safety blanket of a receiving core anymore. Dalton Schultz, obviously really good tight end in my opinion. I think he's underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, last year he had 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, and considering how like it was a very pass happy offense, and they threw the ball a lot to Amari and CeeDee Lamb, I think he had a very good season.
He also last year Dalton Schultz also shared the snaps with who's the other tight end they had.
Ooh.
I can't think of who it was. They had another wide receiver or tight end last season that they used quite a bit. And so he wasn't. Wonder if I'm gonna just pull him up real quick. I'm gonna try to pull up a different game.
Blake Jarwin.
Yes, Jarwin, thank you. Jarwin was the other one that they played with a lot. So he wasn't even necessarily the number one tight end in Dallas last season. But I feel like Dak Prescott will definitely be looking his way more this season, being that he doesn't have a number one receiver to look at in Amari Cooper.
And the offensive line has just taken another significant hit with Tyron Smith being out for the entire year.
Yeah, they're the only name that I recognize on this offensive line is Zach Martin. I think I actually know Connor McGovern too. I think he's Connor McGovern, actually former Penn Stater. But he was drafted a couple seasons ago now, starting for them as of right now. But their offensive line, like you said, has taken a hit and is nowhere near the same that it used to be. So their offense just altogether has fallen apart between the offensive line, the receivers, all of that. They're just falling.
Yeah, versus their defense, which in previous years was the big question mark of the team. I think it's really flipped. I think it's more of a secure thing than their offense is.
I
Um, I don't
on
think like Trayvon Diggs, he's not a lockdown
no.
corner. He takes a lot of risks, but he takes a lot of those risks in order to get a lot of takeaways. And I think their defense will be decent enough. And I think they'll get a decent amount of takeaways. I think that's what they strive for. They're not going to be like the defenses, like the old Jets defenses with Darrelle Revis that just try and shut you down 3 and out. The Cowboys, they'll make a lot of risks in terms of how they play the field in order to get a takeaway. And with the addition of Micah Parsons, who I still think should be a Commander, I'm so mad that they picked him.
Should be an Eagle. What do you mean?
He should be a Commander. Get out of here. But yeah, I just think he's obviously they're looking for him to make another step up this year. I think they're going to be more steady and secure than the offense is going to be this year, I think.
All right. Which is saying a lot, being that the Cowboys defense is never, what screams.
It's not even going to be like lockdown this year either.
When I think Cowboys, I think they kind of try to copy the Chiefs, where it's, let your offense just score a ton of points and then have your defense, just
Not
good enough.
Screwed up.
Yeah, just good enough to bend but don't break. So like you can give up field goals and maybe a touchdown here or there. Just don't let them continue to score touchdowns, because our offense will score.
I think they're even different in that thinking because they go for a lot of takeaways.
Well,
They led the league
not
last
anymore.
year.
I would say not anymore. Yeah,
they led the league in takeaways last year, but again, Diggs gave up over 1,000 yards to receivers.
With that being said, I want to take a moment to talk about Diggs. First off, did you see the NFL Top 100 voted on?
Yeah,
it's voted on by the other players, and
that is utterly ridiculous. He's
fell in
23
to 23. Yes,
Terry McLaurin isn't even on the list.
Yeah, how that happened, I have no idea.
Jonathan Allen's in the 80s. How is he that?
Yeah, Jonathan Allen should be ranked higher. I don't think I saw Jason Kelsey in there, who should definitely be ranked up there. Jordan, I think every single player on the Eagles' offensive and defensive line should fall in there somewhere.
Defensive line, no. Offensive
maybe not
line,
defensive, but definitely
offensive line. Yeah, but players, they don't rate offensive linemen. There's a clip.
Not as much now.
A bunch of players saying that, I don't think any offensive lineman should be in the top 100, but they're the reason you're able to make those catches, pal.
Exactly. But I want to take a moment to talk about Trayvon Diggs, because he is a piece of work in himself. Trayvon Diggs is the most overrated player in the NFL.
I agree.
And I will take all the hate for that anyone wants to send me. He is not as good as he says. First off, he played safety in college, and they are trying to convert him to a corner. So that's where his playmaking ability and his ball hawking skills come from, and that's why he gets so many picks.
He plays the corner like a safety.
Have you seen the videos in the off season of him getting cooked by third and fourth and fifth receivers from other teams?
Did you see the clip with Keenan Allen where they were doing a joint practice with the Chargers, and he was on Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen stopped in the end zone. Trayvon Diggs had his back to the quarterback. Keenan Allen caught the ball right over his head.
Yeah,
and Trayvon Diggs was just looking at him.
Trayvon Diggs has no business playing as a starting NFL cornerback. Now, as an NFC East rival in the Eagles, I hope they keep on playing him there, because he is terrible there. He gave up over 1,000 yards last season, and he is nowhere near a top corner. But
he's a great ball hawk, but he's not a good corner whatsoever.
Yes, if they were to move him back to safety, they'd be benefiting way more than trying to play him at receiver or corner, because if you get one good receiver on him, Trayvon Diggs versus AJ Brown is going to cook him 90% of the time. Terry McLaurin against Trayvon Diggs, Terry McLaurin's going to cook him 90% of the time. Like, there is just no you're trying to convert someone, and obviously whatever you're trying to do hasn't worked as a coach, and you need to find a way to fix it. Obviously, I hope they do that because he's not a good corner, but uh he they need to figure something out if they want to have any success in their secondary, because he is not a corner player. He doesn't understand coverages, I think. Like, he doesn't understand the idea of man-to-man coverage. I think if they played more zone, he'd be fine, because then he doesn't have as much. That's more safety responsibility and zone coverage, but he's not a good man corner. And I think that's what they're trying to make him, which he doesn't work good as.
He's a natural ball hawk, and he takes a lot of risks. That's why he gets so many interceptions. He takes a lot of risks, but the outcome of that is a decent amount of the times you're going to get burnt, or the wide receiver is going to get behind you.
Yeah. But their secondary has never really
been good,
stood out to me in ages. And it still isn't that way. Malik Hooker, I don't know if you remember him. He played for the Colts for a little bit.
Yeah, he's a safety.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think Malik Hooker played corner with the Colts, and I think they'd be better off switching Malik Hooker and Trayvon Diggs. If I'm thinking correctly.
I thought he was just a safety, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I could be misspoken, but I'm pretty sure they played Malik Hooker at corner with the Colts. And then another guy, Kelvin Joseph. He was a second-round pick last year from Kentucky. I don't remember if you remember me talking about him a little bit last season. He's a good corner. He's an actual corner who should be playing corner. And if he were to end up playing over Trayvon Diggs sometime this season, I wouldn't be surprised, because he actually knows how to play the position. He played at LSU. He got kicked out of LSU due to like, I don't want to say crime reasons, because I don't think it was outside of football, but he was causing issues, and he got kicked out of LSU, and he transferred to Kentucky. So he's a good corner, and he should be playing corner, but I don't know if he's ready yet, and I think that's why he's still considered on the bench. And then Jaron Kearse, I think the Eagles were actually looking at signing him for a little bit, but decent safety, plays the position. I'd say their safeties are definitely stronger than their cornerbacks. Anthony Brown and Trayvon Diggs, obviously not great corners, wouldn't start anywhere else. Trayvon Diggs might start just because of his name at this point, but not great. And their linebackers continue to be
their linebackers are amazing.
Leighton
Micah Parsons,
Anthony
Leighton Vander Esch, Anthony Brown.
Yeah,
they're ridiculous. Anthony Barr now,
who, if you remember, was the
Viking
big man for the Vikings, but he is getting old, so how well that'll transfer, we'll see. But their linebackers right now look scary, and then their defensive line again just doesn't really scream out to me. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence, but I wonder. What makes me think a little bit is the fact that Randy Gregory walked.
That's
I want to say if he didn't get much more from the Cowboys, if he didn't get the same, then it might have been a little bit more, but he got basically the same deal from the Cowboys and the Broncos, and he decided to walk after he told the Cowboys that he was going to stay. So I wonder if there was something going on that he just didn't like in the system, and that's why he ended up leaving.
It's hard to say. I don't know. It could be some like a disagreement with the coaching staff or something with the locker room, but yeah, it's just weird.
Now, looking at this, I would say that, like I said earlier, the Cowboys team is really the only team that I would look at and say they got worse. But
but it's not like a huge.
At the same time,
really, really bad. I still think they're gonna be good.
Having said that, I feel like they have the most returners, like the most guys coming back. So I feel like they have the best chemistry. And at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't know how their draft went. I'm not gonna try to, pretend like I
You
know
know the
who they
prospects.
drafted and how they did and all their prospects and everything. But depending on how they drafted, then that would change my look. But just looking at this and going off of what I know from watching around is this is the only team in the NFC East that I would say quote unquote got worse. But again, still has a lot of returners and still could be a pretty decent team. With that being said, I do have them finishing second in the division.
I really don't know how the division's going to turn out because depending on how each of I think 3 of the 4 teams play, I can honestly see it being any way. I think some outcomes are more unlikely than others. Like if it was Commanders, Eagles, Cowboys, or Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, or whatever it is, I wouldn't be surprised by any of those outcomes. I just think some of them are more unlikely than others. So I can't put a number.
You say they're going to be top 3.
Yeah,
basically what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but I think that's a relatively obvious answer.
Yeah. But with that does finish our little Cowboys look in. That's all I got for them. For the NFL, anything else from you?
A few quick things. Recently, Washington claimed Wes Martin off of waivers, and he's the former football teamer, whatever the heck you want to call it. And it's just adding more depth, and I like that. Brian Mitchell, who is a Washington analyst, I think he's the greatest returner of all time. He played for both of our teams. He and Devin Hester should be in the Hall, but he had a great quote when it was after the second preseason game. And it went something along the lines of, we've become so wrapped up in Dan Schneider, we've given the coaching staff a pass for not doing their damn job. And I think that's pretty true. I think a lot of our fan base have been so enwrapped in the whole Dan Schneider thing, and I'm one of them. And I still don't like him at all. But I just think there comes a point where our defense needs to step up. Our coaching staff needs to find answers for these problems that we've had for the past few years, and they really need to be answered. We cannot continually give them a pass.
Now, real quick, I'm not trying to, take down your quote or anything, but one thing that I do have against the whole coaching thing, it's just something that I've been hearing a lot from a Flyers podcast that I listen to. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio and all them, they're not going out on the field to play. Coaches coach, players play. So yes, the coaches might be having some issues, but that's also, it's a product of how the players play. So again, I mean,
I understand
that
both sides, but in order for good play to come, I think good coaching needs to come as well. I think the two go hand in hand, and I still think the secondary, it has some good players on it, but I just think we haven't been able to get the concept and like how our defense should be playing on the field down. I just think we haven't been able to figure that out, considering how it seems like we've had the same like style of defense, but the same problems still persist. So I just think some things need to be changed up. And I don't think Ron Rivera will be on the hot seat, but I certainly think Jack Del Rio is, considering all the controversy he's had in the offseason so far. And how, if the defense doesn't really play up to what it's advertised to be, I could see him being kicked out.
But other than that, is that all you had for the NFL?
One quick thing. Recently, Hall of Fame quarterback Len Dawson passed away. He was one of the I'd say he's the first great quarterback in Chiefs history. he won a Super Bowl with that Chiefs team that had a really great defense with Willie Lanier and Bobby Bell. And if you go back and look at the numbers, he looks like a more of a modern quarterback, decently high completion percentage for the time, and a pretty good touchdowns to interception ratios for that time. Like I said, he threw a lot more touchdowns than interceptions. So our prayers are with his family. So rest in peace to a legend.
With that, we are going to move over real quick to hockey. Hockey's in a big dead area right now. Even more dead than we were with football at any point in time.
Yeah.
But we are coming up on training camp pretty soon. The training camps will start for both the Flyers and Washington, and it looks like the rest of the NHL. September 12th. So, yeah. And then we start the preseason, depending on your team, somewhere between September 15th, 14th, actually, for the Caps against Winnipeg. The 15th is the first Flyers preseason game. And that's the only real thing going on. Is we're waiting for training camp to start before anything happens, and that's really all we got for hockey because there's nothing going on.
Recently at Fanatics might have accidentally released a lot of the new reverse retro logos. It looks like they released like shirts, not exactly the jerseys, but it looks like Washington it's the same Screaming Eagle logo, but it's the old color, so I'm excited about that. And there's a few other notables, but once those get released, we'll do a tier list on YouTube. So that's one of the things I'm actually excited for. I think that's always fun.
The thing that I hate about the reverse retros and everything is the Flyers have always had the same logo, so they never get anything.
It's like the Habs, the Red Wings, the Leafs. It's hard for them to really do anything else. The Leafs, I think, have strayed away a little because they keep changing the leaf. The most recent design was pretty ugly, but I wonder what you guys are gonna do. Are you just gonna go back to the jerseys that had the gold in it and add some gold to your jerseys? That's the only thing I could think you would do.
The only gold jerseys I can think about that you're talking about was
the same logo, but they had like gold trim.
They only did that for the 50th season. I think if it's the same ones that I'm thinking of, then I think
it is. But
I think they only did that for the 50th season.
Yeah, but what else would you guys do?
There was an old jersey. I'll screen share it on here. It was like the middle of the Flyers logo was like shiny. I don't know how to explain it. But I remember using those jerseys in like NHL 2K8 or something all the time. I can't let's see if I can try to find it. But yeah, I mean, other than I don't really know what else they can do because they did this is the logo I'm talking about. Hang on one sec. Let's do this and that. This is the logo I'm talking about.
Okay.
And then I think this is what you were talking about. With the gold.
That's what I was talking about.
See, it was just for the 50th anniversary. But that's the only thing that I could really think of where it's like, oh, that's like the only thing that you can really have a retro to.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for the Flyers to really do anything drastic.
Other than that, I mean, that's really it for the NHL. There's nothing really going on.
Yeah.
There's a picture here of the first logo compared to the now logo. The only difference I really see is one appears to have more white. The old one appears to have more white and is smaller. That's really it. And by more white, I mean like the white parts on the logo now are just a little bit bigger.
Yeah. So there's not much difference.
There's really no change in the logo. But hey, consistency is key in hockey. But with that, I do want to move over to the MLB because that actually does have some news in it. But real quick, I do want to talk about the Bomberger food truck. Bomberger is a relatively new food truck opened by actually two of our friends that we went to high school with, two college-age kids based out of Loudoun County, and trying to make their own business. They have great burgers. They have a new special almost every weekend. And I ate there one time, personally a big fan of their bomb burger, their namesake. That's their most popular burger. Really good food. They also do their fries are really good too. They do like the steak fries. But they go to Brossman's farm stand in Luckett's, Virginia every weekend and are coming up in this next month. They actually are starting to expand out more catering, more locations coming up, going into the month of September. So if you want to find out where they're going and try to get more in on their news, they post all their events on their socials on Facebook and Instagram. So go follow them over there and you can check out where they're going and go check out their food.
Check them out, give them some support. Going on into baseball, we actually have some exciting things to talk about. The most exciting thing is that Kate Cavalli, Washington Nationals first round pick, is starting tonight, making his debut, and Joey Meneses continues to be one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball. Before we talk about that guy, Bryce Harper, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Joey Meneses so far is hitting .324, 6 home runs, 8 RBI with a .945 OPS, and he's slugging .595.
I mean, at least that's a bright spot for you. At least that's a bright spot for you.
Yeah, that's one of the only bright spots, and how CJ Abrams has been recently called up. That's about it.
I gotta ask you a question, because I personally, when I get to a point in a season where, like last season when the Flyers were playing and I just realized okay, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. Do you get to a point where you're just like, yeah, I don't want to watch them anymore? Have you given up, or do you still watch Nationals games?
I still watch them, but it's harder to do so. It's harder to find the motivation.
It's hard to be like, oh, there's a game on, but it's like, do I really want to watch them lose?
I know they're gonna lose. I
was just wondering because last season when the Flyers were playing, I was having trouble once I knew they were out of the playoffs, and every season for the Phillies, I've been having trouble. After about the All-Star break, I'm like, do I really need to watch it? But this is how often I am trying to watch the Phillies.
Because they're actually in the hunt.
Yeah, they're actually in a playoff spot, and they're starting to get some players back, like Bryce Harper, so he went down on his first game was on Tuesday in a couple months since June 29th when he broke his finger, that he had played real-time baseball. He went down to Lehigh Valley for a rehab assignment, and
he hit a home run on his first pitch.
He hit, I don't think it was his first pitch, but it was the first at bat. He hit a home run, and then he ended up hitting a walk-off home run. It was either a walk-off or a go-ahead home run later in the game too. So, and then a couple days later, I think it was actually the next night, he hit a walk-off double in at the end of that game too. So they planned on leaving him down there until Saturday, which today's Friday as we're recording, and he's making not his debut, but he's coming back tonight on Friday against, who are they playing? I think it's the Pirates, if I recall correctly. Yes, Pirates at the Phillies. So he's making his comeback tonight, but this is the first time he's going to be playing some real MLB pitching. And honestly, if I'm being brutally truthful and completely honest, I'm kind of happy that he's coming in against the Pirates, because obviously the Pirates are struggling.
The Pirates stink. They have Brian Hayes and O'Neill Cruz, and that's literally it.
better than him coming in to face like Max Scherzer or Jacob DeGrom right off the bat.
Yeah, because he's
No pun
gonna.
intended.
I think he's
But
gonna struggle a little bit coming back, and I think you want to like some easier teams to get him back in the groove.
the
And
the only the
your other
only
hitters are
way it
still
could have
hot,
the
so
only
that could
way it
help
could
him
have
out.
worked out better is if he came in, like 2 days ago when they were still playing the Reds, who they just swept.
Or the Nats, because we're worse.
Yes, or the Nats. But with that, they bring back Harper. He's going to be playing tonight, and they put Zach Wheeler on the 15-day IL. So Zach Wheeler now, which puts us back in that same predicament that we had pre-trade deadline, where we now only have 4 pitchers. Good news is he'd only be missing like 2 or 3 starts. So it's not
and your pitchers are actually doing decent, and you have some hot hitters right now. So I think you'll be fine. You'll be able to get past it.
Nola just pitched his second complete game in a row.
Yeah.
So Nola's been playing really well.
And Castellanos, boom, Bryson Stott. They're playing pretty decent. Yeah, and Bryce is coming back, so I think you'll be fine.
Schwarber hit his 35th home run yesterday, so hopefully that's the Phillies broke 70 wins finally. I wanted to bring up the stats though from yesterday because, like I said, Aaron Nola, he struck out 11, complete game, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 3.08 ERA. So I mean the team's starting to warm up. I don't want to say hot, but they're starting to warm up, getting into the right time. They're last time I looked, which I believe was yesterday, they were 2 games ahead of the Padres in the wild card. 2.5 games ahead of the Padres now.
And I think you'll get past the Padres because with the Tatis thing, I think it's cast a shadow over that team. And I think they've underperformed for the amount of talent they have. And with players like Josh Bell, he's doing really bad there. I think it's going to be close, but I think you'll beat him out.
We have them beat. We're 2.5 games ahead. Did I say behind?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant ahead.
Ahead.
They're 2.5 games ahead of the Padres right now, which I almost would rather. Actually, no, that's a lie, because so right now, no, I would almost rather the Padres go up and beat out the Phillies right now, because Atlanta is one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. You're
not catching Atlanta.
40. Yeah, I know, but I don't want to play Atlanta. That's why I'm saying I want them to drop. And if they were to catch up to Atlanta, which again, they're not going to, and they'd still be playing Atlanta, because right now, if the playoffs were to start tonight, the Dodgers and the Mets would have a bye. St. Louis would be playing San Diego, and Atlanta would be playing Philadelphia in a best of 3 for the wild card. So no more 1-game wild card baseball, which that's kind of sad, because
those games were fun.
Yeah, 1-game wild cards in baseball were fun because there were just so many variables that you had to look out for. But no more of that. It's now a best of 3 wild card round, which still is interesting, but not as fun as a 1-game. And so I'd almost rather the Phillies drop below San Diego, because I don't want the Phillies to play Atlanta in a first round. I don't know if they can beat Atlanta in a best of 3.
I don't think so.
The only way I could see it happening.
But St. Louis, they're really hot as well. I really wouldn't want to play them either.
I'd rather play St. Louis though. I feel like St. Louis is.
I wouldn't want to face either, but St. Louis, Albert Pujols is hot. Paul Goldschmidt is looking.
Albert Pujols has like 4 home runs in the last 6 games or something.
He has like 6. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt are 1 and 2 for the NL MVP. Paul Goldschmidt is like 2 homers away from leading the Triple Crown. He leads in RBIs and averages, and 2 behind in the homer. I think he's 3 now, and the home run lead. So I would. Yeah, Cardinals are a really good team.
He's 2 behind Schwarber right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play them either. I think it's going to be a very difficult ask to beat either one of the teams. But
it sounds like the
understand
only
what you're
thing
saying.
We can do is we need to go up and we need to catch up to the Mets. Which
Yeah.
even if the Braves go up and catch up to the Mets, which I think they're only a half game back, right? Oh, they're 2 games back. The Mets started winning again, but they're 2 games back. Even if Atlanta were to pass the Mets, I still don't want to play the Mets because the Mets have had the Phillies
Yeah, and they're gonna
number this
start.
season.
They're gonna be able to start Scherzer and DeGrom back to back, which is something
Exactly.
you
Like
do not want to do. And they have Edwin Diaz.
it's not a good look for the Phillies in the playoffs right now.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
obviously
Yeah, it's
the
gonna be
playoffs are
difficult to
different.
win.
It's different than the regular season. There's a different energy and everything's more competitive. And going into the playoffs, we should be getting players back. I don't think so. Corey Knable's on 60-day IL. I don't think he's coming back.
No.
Zach Eflin, it says he's on 60-day IL, but he's been on the IL for a while, so I don't know if that's a refreshment of the 60-day IL or how that works. But I don't know if he'll be back in time. Brandon Marsh is beginning his rehab assignment in Lehigh Valley, so he should be coming back soon. And then Zach Wheeler is only on 15-day IL, so he shouldn't be out too long. So we're starting to get players back from injury. Sir Anthony Dominguez, who's one of our better bullpen arms, which I never thought I'd say in my life that the Phillies bullpen is actually pretty decent.
Yeah, it doesn't stink.
He's only on 15-day IL, so he should be coming back. So hopefully we're starting to get healthy at the right time. There's really only a little over a month left in baseball, and hopefully the Phillies can start to get healthy and get some wins and lead them getting hot into the playoffs. But I think once our outfield is completely healthy again with Brandon Marsh in center, Bryce Harper, I think they're only putting him as DH. I still don't think he's going in full into defense yet. But once we get Brandon Marsh back in center and Bryce Harper back in the lineup, I think I'll be happy. But it's getting nerve-wracking. I haven't been this nervous about Phillies baseball in a while. And then finishing out the season, well, I probably won't do actually, we have Pittsburgh now, then Arizona, and then I like the Phillies schedule finishing out the season. Yeah, I like the Phillies schedule finishing out the season. They really only have 4 absolutely dire matchups. They have Pittsburgh, 3-game against Pittsburgh, 3-game in Arizona, and then a 3-game in San Fran, and then 3 games against Miami, 3 games against Washington, 3 games in Miami, 3 games in Atlanta, 2 games against Toronto, 4 games against Atlanta, and then 3 in Chicago, 4 in Washington, and 3 in Houston. So I'd say San Fran, Atlanta, both Atlanta, Houston, and then the 2 games against Toronto is really the only thing that they have left to worry about. Other than that, they have a pretty easy ride for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs. So hopefully they'll be able to start catching heat at the right time going into the playoffs because they don't have much to worry about.
Yeah, it's a fairly easy schedule.
And as they approach that, hopefully Atlanta will start to cool down. Because Atlanta, they have St. Louis, Colorado, Miami, Oakland, Seattle. How good is Seattle?
They're actually decent.
They're 68 and 57. I think they're in a wild card spot.
They're a lot better than the Angels.
San Fran, Philly, Washington, the Mets, and then Miami. I'd say the Braves have I'd say the Braves schedule is pretty 50-50.
I still think they'll finish ahead of you guys.
they're like 8 games ahead of the Phillies right now.
Yeah.
There is no shot they don't finish unless they're 7.5 games ahead of the Phillies. Unless they totally forget how to play baseball in the next month, I think they've locked in the second spot. But I will say this turned out to be just like I predicted at the beginning of the season, like the three-way battle for the division. I thought the Phillies were going to be able to come out on top, but Atlanta and the Mets have both surprised me. I didn't think Atlanta would be playing the way they are. The last thing, though, that I want to mention before we finish off the episode here is the new scheduling that they're going to do for the MLB, which I'm actually super excited about because this is something that I think they should have been doing for multiple years and they just never did. To what reason? I have no clue. But they are now playing, every team will play every other team in the MLB like the NHL does. So I'm gonna pull up the way that they're gonna work the schedule. So for the first time ever, all 30 clubs will face each other. 52 total division games, 64 total intra-league games, and 46 total interleague games. All 30 clubs play on opening day, Jackie Robinson Day, Lou Gehrig Day, 4th of July, Roberto Clemente Day, and Game 162. So I think that makes it more interesting. You're getting a little taste of every team every season, which makes it more fun in my opinion.
That's gonna be cool.
That's what I like about the hockey schedule is you're facing every team at least once. I think with 31 teams, it was worked out perfectly. I don't know if they still do the same thing with 32 teams. I know they still play every team, but I don't know how they work it. But yeah, I just never understood why they had to face divisions in the MLB when you have 162 games. Like I think
you could spread it out a little bit more.
Exactly. It just didn't make sense to me, but that's something that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, I'm excited to obviously you have stars on every team and why not get to play all of them. But
yeah, like Joey Meneses for the Nationals. He's a star.
All right, dude. I think you know what next jersey you need.
If he re-signs with the team, I'll consider it.
With that, I think we're gonna end it off there. Anything else from you?
That's all I got.
All right, so you guys can follow our Instagram at BL in the DC, our TikTok at BL in the DC, where we do like little clips of the pods when we release them, and like separate little segments if something big happens, like a trade or whatnot. And we post all that stuff on Instagram too. You can DM us questions and comments on Instagram. You can email us questions or comments at blndc@gmail.com. You can rate us on Spotify and Apple and leave us a review on Apple. And I think that's it. So with that, we will see you guys next week.
See you later.